Hey Nick, for your feedback for LE3, I decided that I was going to use Screencastify. I'm sure you're aware of what they do. It's the ability for me to record audio and video while talking to my screen. This definitely takes a lot more work, um, but I think the efforts are well worth it, as I think that these types of methods for feedback are more personable and can be better received. Okay, so I'm going to try to do this in one attempt, but it's actually my second. Uh, so please bear with me if I stumble through certain parts. I have no script, and I saved the best for last, which is you. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but bear with me, and hopefully you find this method for feedback practical. Okay, so let's just dive right in. I'm super stoked that you enjoy. Um, Sorry that you enjoyed and took me up on my offer of recreating your online test into Google Forms. I absolutely love all the different functions that it has, from the importing of different things and images. It's kind of limited in the maybe like the different type of questions, but like the self-marketing and then the ability to go in and then you can level it. There's just so many practical and functional ways for us to provide those formative and even like to some degree summative tasks to our students, and then like the ability to create a tracking sheet after just makes it so much more time consuming. Again, so I wanted you to kind of do some of that upfront work, see like if you liked it and see if you could find it useful, and I'm glad that you did. um so it's great to see that you can see yourself using these types of forms going forward. Really happy about. All right, so there's one part, I think I mentioned it to you, but I'm not sure. um, I'm going to show you one of my older Google Forms. I can't access into my personal Gmail for some reason, so I'm showing you one that I've used with instructors as a lead. So what I want to show you is the different, like it's called branches. So basically, based on your response, you can it will take you to a different section. So see here, like because I have all these different sections here, based on how they answer the one question, it could take you to another area. And all you do that is you just keep adding new sections, and then you can go from there. So for like example, this one here, if they respond to this, then it brings them to this one down here, and then from there I can put it that they submit response, or like submit the form, or I can have them go back to the beginning. So I think this is kind of useful, like especially if you wanted to do maybe like a group assessment, um, where you have like depending on what group they're in, then they can go in and they can fill it out. So you still have that ability to have that one tracking sheet. And there's other ways that would be very practical, like and useful. But I wanted to expose you to that. Um, again, I just absolutely love Google Forms. Okay, so again, I'm really happy that you took me up, and I'm glad you found it useful. Okay, I'm going to move right along. Thanks for contributing to the Flipgrid. Um, I think this is, like again, I I think that learners and fellow students, enjoy this type of a response feature, right? Like it's an ability for us to get in. Like as a teacher, I've posted questions. I posted like I've asked them like to reflect on a type of learning. I've asked them to maybe think out a problem and give me their thoughts on it. I I find this to be a really practical, useful tool as well too. Maybe something you'd like to learn, or sorry, maybe something you'd like to utilize with your students, because it's easily accessible. You can use it from any device. You can get it off your cell phone. So, again, thank you for contributing to it, and I hope you found this useful. All right, moving on. Down here, what did I want to talk about here? Sorry, I'm getting tired. I love that you always come back to my questions and you think really deeply on it. um, you have a tremendous knowledge, and like you seem to have a like an opinion, and it's always informed on just about anything that I ask, and I'm learning a lot from you as well too, and I want to thank you for that. um, Going back and ensuring that you answer questions of you, and then coming back with these great fantastic suggestions is really contributing to the learning of the group. I know that the younger teachers are really benefiting from it along with myself. So I again, I want to know that, your effort is, well appreciated. And I, thank you for doing so. Okay, moving right along. Here, what I just talked about, giving these practical, um, practical, suggestions. Not everybody kind of followed what was supposed to do, but you made sure to do it, and you gave, great things. And I know that it was well received from, the candidates, that you do it. Okay, so last thing I'm going to talk about is here. So as I'm reading, your post on, 21st century, century skills, and I'm going through it, and I'm, like I'm nodding my head. I'm thinking to myself, man, this guy really gets it. I really appreciate the fact that you're in my course. You know, again, sorry, I'm kind of, running out of steam here, but there's points that you made all the way through it that I was just like, drawn to. I was like, um, really value, the thought that you put into this. At one point that I said I would talk to, and it kind of comes to this as well too. So, I think what you come to about, really pushing, or at least, shifting away from the type of assessments that we're using with our students, and actually maybe, moving, towards, tasks that, actually make them critically think and be, creative. Like, I think this is bang on, right? Um, for the last week, I've texted, I've called, I've used Twitter, I've reached out to as many, high school teachers that I could, because I know that academic, misconduct is something that a lot of you are concerned about. And this is what they all came back to, right? Like, don't create something that a student can, easily Google, right? Like, I've heard that, many times, why teach something when they can, just grab it themselves, right? But it's actually, thinking them, teaching and, modeling how to critical think, and to use some of these, digital tools that are at their disposal, like to demonstrate that. And then to be able to, choose the ones that work really well for them. All these are really key things. So the other point that I wanted to share too, from talking with my high school friends, was the person that actually taught physics online, but it was a few years ago. And what she said that is that for the midterm and the final, students actually had to go into the school, like to actually write it, right? So like it wasn't done like online, whatsoever. So I found that to be, something that I hadn't considered, and I'm sure that might be the norm going forward, but I'm not sure. And another thing that she talked about too was all, there was many tasks that they had to do, but it was all formative, right? So it was more like a checklist. It wasn't really, like a lot of weight put into it. All the weight for the course came through the midterm and the final. And she did mention that she had a bunch of, summative tasks that they could take pictures of, or they could submit, certain ways. But it'd be very apparent if it wasn't their work when they got to the, like the final exam, right? So like if they had their uncle or their dad or their brother go in and do it for them, that would come up, right? And that's another thing that I looked on too, is it's like, like even within this course and other courses, like it's pretty obvious to me when someone is just copy and paste it from somewhere else, because that, like as you read certain, once you get to know your students and read their work, it's almost like a written voice, right? So, you can kind of pick up on it. You can use a lot of that, Turnitin type things, to catch them. But I think all that stuff is, like if a kid's going to cheat, they're going to cheat, right? But I think, some of those measures that we put in place, in like asking questions that are more, critically thinking based, and, putting, more weight into the final, versus, all the little things along the way. Like, I think that would kind of help. I don't know if I've given you all the answers. I don't think obviously that I have, but maybe it is something that'll help you get started. I'm going to explore it more further, and hopefully I'll have some things like to share. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks again. You are like a model student. Um, such a reflective like a reflective practitioner. Like you're giving, valuable insight and suggestions. You put time and care into your task. I know this isn't easy when you're outside trying to, rip down your deck or be a dad. I'm not sure if you are, or be anybody, right? Like it just takes a lot of time. So like I appreciate you, coming back and ensuring that you are contributing. We do have a couple virtual classrooms that I've made available. And my point is for these is that, there's been such, positive feedback, from it, um, that I wanted to, maybe make it, like I'm going to do it actually, for two different this time. And I think this will help us maybe, finish strong and, maybe alleviate, some of